Hello YouTube, today a short video and this time on the Void Knights. I talked about this topic a lot and very briefly in every video I talked about it. In a lot of videos, but I tend to get so many requests to talk about this topic exclusively that I will just give it its own video now. But before we start, I have a little problem. I do way too much 4th era lore because people keep requesting that, and I have an average of 50 requests per 4th era lore topic versus a maximum of 10 per other topic. And I grow a bit tired of 4th era stuff since it's almost always a matter of interpretation, my opinions and some politics when it comes around. I understand that's what a lot of you would like about my channel, but for this 3rd year of Imperial knowledge I actually wanted to do more random topics and less opinionated topics, and thus I wanted to try some more random stuff and so in the future I will just ignore the amount of requests that something gets and look at what requests actually motivate me. I will still do 4th era stuff, but my latest stuff did not get me excited at all, and that's a problem. So let me know in the comments what kind of non-4th era lore topics you would want to hear. Again, I will still do them, just not as often. But with that said, it's time to talk about another 4th era lore topic, the Void Knights. Something very strange and unheard from before happened to Nirn in the year 98 of the 4th era. The 2 moons of Nirn, Maser and Secunda, disappeared from the night sky of Tamriel. What caused it? We have no idea at all. However, I will share some theories later in this video. We know that during this time there was quite a bit of panic around Tamriel when the moons disappeared. I mean, take a look at our own moon and imagine that one day it was fine just hanging there in the night sky, and the next day it just didn't show up at all. This is what happened to Tamriel, and it was quite a shocking event. But to none it was as shocking as to the Khajiit. You see, Khajiiti culture is very dependent on the moons, but more importantly their entire species is dependent on the moons. The phases of Maser and Secunda and their distances to Nirn, etc. have influences on the type of Khajiit that you actually become. They also have influences on your size and your appearance in general. So for Khajiiti culture, this disappearance of the moon from the night sky was an even bigger deal than anywhere around Tamriel. Anywhere around Tamriel people were just, oh my god, the moon's disappeared, what's going on? The Khajiit were just like, oh god, our entire species is in danger. There's a difference there. We don't exactly know what happened to the Khajiit in these years other than mass spread panic in all of Elsewhere and the Khajiit living abroad. The most likely scenario is that either all newborn Khajiit were all of the same type and size. It could be that they all became the Sute, and that's a type of Khajiit that only is born during both Maser and Secunda's new phases in which you don't see them. So the new phase is the phase where they're black. Or all their babies became an entirely different type of Khajiit that is born when there are no moons, or they were just not able to procreate at all. Neither of those options we really know for certain, but all of them would have been a big impact on the Khajiit. Again, what exactly happened during these 2 years we don't know, but the most interesting part of this whole event, the part that is actually mentioned most in the lore, is what happened after those 2 years. After 2 years of no moon, the moons suddenly reappeared again. And when they did, the Thalmor immediately took credit for the reappearance, stating that they had brought the moons back using ancient dawn magic. Whether this is true or if the Thalmor were just taking credit for a very lucky situation that was also unknown to them, we don't know. But the Khajiit believed them immediately, and they saw the Thalmor as the saviors of their race from that moment forward. Thus, the kingdoms of Anaquina and Palatine, or the kingdoms of Elsewhere, became the client states of the Altmeri Dominion after the Dominion had completely eradicated the Imperial influence from Elsewhere over a couple of years. As I said before, we don't know much about the cause of the Void Knights, however there are some interesting theories on the matter. These are some of the most likely ones. I personally don't believe either of them, the theories I'm going to state, however, I will tell you some, and perhaps in the comments we can have some interesting discussion going over which it could be, or maybe one of you has their own theories. So one of the first ones is actually one of my personal favorites, but then again there is no proof of anything in the games. Since there's some substantial evidence the Khajiit were once elves before being turned into beast folk, and the moons have heavily influenced everything in their lives, including their birth and type of Khajiit, or even type of being they are, some have theorized that this was actually the Thalmor that made the moons disappear in an endeavor to try and mess with the Khajiiti genes. Perhaps they thought that if there were no moons to influence the Khajiit, they might actually grow back into elves, and thus prove a good ally to the Dominion, or give birth to elves again, instead of giving birth to Khajiit if there were no moons, and no lunar influence. And when the Thalmor noticed that this wasn't working after 2 years, then they just brought the moons back and tried to have the Khajiit bound to them in another manner. This time by claiming they actually fixed the moon and just neglecting to mention that they were the ones that made them disappear in the first place. This is very far-fetched, and I personally don't really believe the Thalmor had anything to do with the Void Knights, because I don't think they are strong enough to make them disappear on their own. But the Thalmor have been known to collaborate with Daedra, as witnessed during the Great War, and the Daedra might be able to lend them this kind of power. I just don't see it happening. However, it's a very interesting theory, and in my opinion that one that could be true. I just don't think it is true. Another way more crazy theory is that the moons were in fact not even gone. But the moons, according to this theory, just stopped circling Nirn. In fact, this theory states that somewhere else on Nirn, perhaps Akavir, Pianone, or the remains of Yokuda, or maybe even someone on Atmora if there's anyone there, a very powerful magical force held from that place the moons above that continent. So they held it in spot, where there would be no moons visible on Tamriel, so it should be on the exact opposite of Nirn. Opposite side of Nirn from Tamriel. This theory is very problematic, as moon patterns and circulation of planets works completely against it. But then again, Nirn and Mundus are not like any normal scientific things as we know them, and Nirn does not orbit the sun or Magnus's hole in the Oribus, for as far as we know. So there might be something to this theory. I mean, if you hold it in place on the other side and things don't change, this could actually be true. However, I just don't think it's very likely, because they stated in the lore that the moons disappeared, and not that the moons became invisible. And then there's my personal theory, which isn't really a theory, but it's a weird coincidence. The only ones I see to be powerful enough to actually be able to meddle with the moon on their own can probably be the Psijic Order. And their island disappeared in exactly the same year the moons reappeared. I just wonder if there's a connection. I don't really have a theory, but I really think that they had something to do with it, but I just can't prove it. Really, let me hear your thoughts on the topic. I really think that the Void Knights are one of those topics that is usually unappreciated because they're so, well, there's not that much on it, but I think we can have a good discussion if any one of you is willing to discuss in the comments. But with that said, this is the end of this video. Again, let me know your suggestions for non-4th era lore topics, or just 4th era lore topics that are straight to do instead of just having a huge part of speculation in it. Let me know them in the comments, and then I might actually do one of them. If you like this video, like the video, subscribe to the channel for more Elder Scrolls lore, because more is yet to come. Also, if you want to support me on Patreon, that's actually a good possibility. Then go to the description too for a link to my Patreon. And also on there you get access to some of my Patreon content, like a vlog. You get access to high quality downloads of my personal soundtrack, which was also featured in this video for a part. And you get access to exclusive investor briefings, as I call them, where I discuss the state of the channel with the patrons. Also, if you want personal contact with me and you don't want to support me on Patreon, my Instagram is in the description, and also my Discord is in the description. And on there you can get some, well, conversation with me. I'm usually up for conversation or lore discussions. So hit me up one time if you want. And yeah, I'm going to end the video here. Bye bye. See you all in the next lore video. Probably not on a 4th hour topic. Bye.